Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer, and I am a designer called Skeindeer Knits on Ravelry. And also there's the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to take part in knit-alongs, the community, getting in touch with me, and getting pattern support and all those things. I have linked to all those three down below so you can find them there. Welcome to my knitting podcast. If you're a new viewer, this is where I sit and chat about knitting for about an hour every week. I talk about what I design and what I knit and what I make, etc. More about just what I make for fun nowadays, just because my professional endeavors are a bit elsewhere. And to returning viewers, as you will know, that is the PhD that's kind of taking over a bit lately. So I am so glad that you have returned to just, chat about knitting with me for about an hour. It's a nice break from the regular flair. So yes, knitting. I have a lot to cover this week, but before I get into that, I'm just going to cover the knit-alongs that I'm running and we will get straight to it. I am running the year-long knit-along of 2019, where we aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the duration of 2019. More about that in the Ravelry group, but yeah, I have linked to that as well, and there's still plenty of time to jump in. We're only halfway through. Only halfway through. How are we halfway through the year already? How? Well, I guess technically it's to the end of June. So we can relax. It's good. It's fine. Anyway, the other knit along is the Kosekofte Cal, where we are going to make my Kosekofte pattern. I have already made mine because I had to do that to release the pattern, as it so happens. But for anyone else who wants to make that cardigan, that is something that we are doing, and lots of people have actually made considerable progress already, and there are others still waiting for the yarns and such. So, you know, I still haven't got a deadline for that, so you can still jump on and make yourself a nice, cozy, massive cardigan. That's what I did last year in order to have my cardigan come out. And yeah, very proud of it, and I hope you will enjoy yours as well. It's like a coat again with like colour work all over, but it's quite thick yarn, so it's not as slow as you might think. Yeah, anyway, enough of me tooting my own horn. Let's talk about knitting. I mean, other knitting things. It's all about knitting, really. It was Worldwide Knitting Public Day this past Saturday. So I hope you guys knitted in public. I actually ironically found myself knitting in a yarn shop, which I guess is arguably public, but yeah, could be more public. So I made sure to knit some on the bus on the way back from that, but yeah, got a bit motion sick. That wasn't the best idea I've ever had, but you know, got some knitting in public cranked in there just for good measure, because that doesn't really make that day different from any other day for me, but you know, But what I did do on Knitting Public Day was that I went to the yarn dispensary in Faversham, or a yarn dispensary? No, I can't remember. Anyway, if you Google yarn dispensary, you will find out, and it's such a special shop, and I was not prepared for this at all. Now, Gemma, who I've already met on at least one, if not 2 occasions, I'm pretty sure more than 2, she's kind of recently taken over some yarn shop bits that I don't know. I don't run a yarn shop, and yeah, she invited me over along with some other knitty people, and so I got to see some people I know, and it was fun. But regardless of what we did and knitted and talked and all that stuff, I just want to talk about the shop, because I was completely unprepared for this. The shop is, I mean, it's a yarn shop, that's always awesome, but the location, and it's kind of embarrassing that I didn't notice this right away. Like, the whole town of Faversham is beautiful, but I was like, yarn and buns. There's a lot of good buns in the area, like cinnamon buns, and oh my god, amazing. And so I just saw the yarn, and it wasn't until I got like a guided tour in the shop that I realized this building is old. Like, yeah, in the UK there's lots of old buildings, it's no big deal. A building from 1280, that's a big deal. That's pretty old. That's like pre-Black Plague old. It's old. It was a really, really old building, and there's lots of like back rooms. It's kind of like a labyrinth of like slanted walls and ceilings, and you could like hear the rain outside, because oh boy, it was raining. Even though it was a lovely day, it was raining a lot. And there's a beautiful backyard, this massive fireplace, and I had to laugh because the fireplace room had this massive pool table. And I don't know if any of you guys played The Sims 1 when you were kids, or back when The Sims 1 was a thing. that was like the way you would get a house on fire. So put the pool table next to the fireplace. So I had to laugh a bit, but anyway, hope that's not going to happen to this amazingly old building. So then I went back into the actual yarn shop room and just noticed all the other things that wasn't yarn. And it's basically an old chemist location, and it hasn't really changed much since it was that. So it had like lots of shelves and like little chemist drawers, and there's like counter with like see-through glasses, like kind of curved. I wish I'd taken photos and filmed it, but I guess I was busy enjoying myself. But if you look up the yarn dispensary, I'm sure they will have lots of photos of their shop and whatever. I can recommend it. If you're ever in Kent in the UK, do pop by for the lovely town that it is, and the lovely yarn shop, the location, just yeah, everything. And if anything, just to market with all the amazing food. So that was my Saturday. That was my knitting public day. Yeah, it was really fun. It was really good to see friends of mine. I mean, one you may know of is Amy Florence of the Stranded podcast. So it's really good to see her again as well, because I suspect it's going to be a long while till next time. And yeah, so, but what I would have done had I not gone there is the knitting public day that my local yarn shops do, because Fabrication, Knit with Attitude, and Wild and Woolly usually do something really fun every year, and I really enjoyed it last year, and I'm hoping to do more of that the coming knitting public days, because it's really enjoyable. But yeah, this time I thought I'd do it out of town. But if you're in London the next time around, I can recommend the kind of East London Yarn Triangle Knitting Public Day. It's basically a yarn crawl that ends with a picnic, so you can't really hate that. And at last, we are ready to talk about the knitting that I have done the past week, and I am pretty chuffed about this week's lineup. I don't only have one finished object, nor two, nor three. You think I may have four? Ha! I have 5 finished objects. Yes! This has got to be a personal record. Like, I'm pretty sure I've had 4 at one point. This time I've got 5, and yeah, you'd think, oh, that should be a considerable dent in your works in progress piles, Ellie, but can't even notice the difference. I've got so many works in progress. It's like it's gone down by a very small percentage with these 5 projects. Oh well, it's 5. I will take the celebration opportunity that I can, and yeah, pretty proud. Obviously, before anyone gets too excited, this is just the side effect of having so many projects going, is that you make a little bit of progress every week on each and every one, and before you know it, you have lots of things finished. And it may seem like I've knitted so much on 5 things this week, which is not really the case. It's just that I have a lot of nearly finished things laying around, and when I decide to get Mac together, magic things happen. So shall we start with the elephant in the room? I am not talking about myself, I'm talking about what I'm wearing. Rude. Anyway, I am wearing Tenya. This is Tenya, sometimes pronounced Tegna, but I'm pretty sure Tenya is the accurate one, by Caitlin Hunter, also known as Boylan Knitworks. I cast this on last summer, so I just had to look this up. I cast it on July 8th and I finished on July 6th. Hello focus, you're not with us, and there we are. So yeah, that's taken a while. It was just gonna be, it was one of those cheeky cast-ons. I was like, I have this one skein, this wool mycenae skein, that could be one sweater, this whole skein. I'm just gonna cast on and do a bit of lace, just a little bit of lace, just get through the lace. And before I know it, I'd like powered through this like massive section of fine gauge lace, because it's a lot, and it's a lot of stitches. And I decided, because this is wool mycenae, which I would argue is more of a light fingering, and therefore can be knitted into a sweater with a sort of fingering weight gauge. And I think Tenya is already quite a loose gauge for a fingering weight gauge, so I went from the recommended 22 stitch gauge to 26. So that is 26 stitches per 10 centimeters or 4 inches. And it worked out. As you can see, there is, you know, a tendency of see-throughness, but I think that's just the inevitable effect of a high twist, well plied superwash yarn in a very dark color on very, very pale skin. So it doesn't look see-through really, generally, and it fits really well. And yes, do you want to see the whole thing? Of course you want to do. Let's do like an awkward boob shot again, and me maybe trying to get on my chair, because you still can't see the lace, can you? And there's a fold already. Oh, I think this one is for when I hung it on the drying rack. So I need to just get the iron out and steam it out, I think. I'm not going to soak this again because I've done that twice. No, 3 times already. So, knees on the chair. You can see the lace. Look at that. And I powered through this so quickly. And there's a lot of lace happening here. There's an awful lot. And yeah, I got through here and I was like, oh god, stuck in it in the round all the way up here. I did a lot, and it's actually, as you may have noticed, it's a lot longer than my usual tops, which is ironic because this is meant to be a crop top. I'm just gonna get my kitty out of the way. So that's a bit weird. So it looks really nice with leggings, but I feel a bit naked just wearing leggings. So and I'm not really a trouser gal, so I might see how this could work out with a fairly short black skirt. Just something small. So yeah, it was just stuck in an island all the way up to the sleeve and body divide, and I actually did power through to that point, hanging out with friends and stuff, and then I wasn't really feeling it anymore. I didn't want to knit this whole thing flat. It was already going slow. Last thing I want to do is to purl the damn thing. So it became a UFO. And then I realized the other day, just like a week or 2 ago, you know what? I am competent enough with my knitting machine that I can work the front and back for the sleeve divide on the machine. And so I did that. I just powered through. It took an afternoon, and then I picked up for the neckline and I knitted that in the round. I like the opening. I think this is probably what I would have wanted for boxes. It's just slightly less open. And yeah, picked up for the sleeves, powered through one, and then I was like, oh, am I going to finish down the sleeve in time? And then I just knitted on it while I was in a protest march in London. I had the sweater kind of tucked under my arm, and I shoved the skein into the other sleeve, and it could just like pull through the center. And I just got through basically from here all the way to the cuff in the protest. And in the end, I opted for a short moss stitch. Goodness me, moss stitch cuff. Yeah, so I like a good moss stitch cuff, like a just short one. It doesn't look so weird then when the sleeve gets a bit looser here than maybe what you planned for. It just makes sense. So I've always quite liked these cuff, and I might utilize them a bit more also in my designs. Yeah, so Tenya, you guys. I can see on the camera now, it is looking a bit see-through. You can see like the contours of my tank top underneath, so it's a good thing I'm wearing a tank top underneath, or camisole, whatever you want to call them. It's just one of those basic stretchy undergarment things. So yeah, ooh, Tenya. So it's ready to be worn at Woolen, which is where I'm going on Thursday, and I will be staying there until Monday. I'm gonna go up there with my friend May, who is Math My Knitter on Instagram. Used to be a local knitter friend of mine. We met in a local knitting group. I am also going to be seeing other friends of mine. We'll be staying with my friend Shamika, who is coming all the way from New York. I have stayed at hers for many a times in New York, so it's going to be good to share Airbnb with her. And I believe that Liz of Trellis is going to join us. She's coming all the way from Greece, and I wonder if the last time I saw her was in Greece. I think we met later. Yes, of course we met later. But it'd be good to see her again. I'm looking forward to it. I think the main reason I'm going is just because May talked me into joining the Airbnb with like lots of awesome people, and she was like, okay, I got the Airbnb, if you buy our flight tickets we're even. And I'm like, I guess we're going. Whoa. So we're going. Whoa. Yeah, so I've got my woolen sweater done. I figured this would be a good one because it's summer and it's a thin superwash garment, ergo a bit less hot than some of the other garments I could have finished. So, and it's like quite wearable. I will have to figure out how to style it. Definitely will be styling it with the squishy kitten, and I will be styling with the black skirt probably. And you know, this is apparently my go-to hairstyle now, in case anyone cared to notice. It's just my hair has grown really long, which is something I used to have growing up. It used to be like down to my waist, and wasn't really the plan this time around, but I figured since it's just gotten out of hand, I'm just gonna grow it long enough to like donate it to like Little Princess Fund or something like that, so they can make wigs. Have been joking about making wigs, or like a wig for Amy, just because she's gone bald and it's funny. But yeah, probably gonna give it to someone who wants it. Anyway, Tenya, Off the Needles by Kate and Hunter. I modified a lot. I talked about some of them briefly. Obviously the machine knit portion was arguably a modification, but I did actually follow the pattern when doing it. It's just that I had to estimate my row gauge in order to know how many rows to knit, because that's how the machine works. You can't measure the length, you need to count the rows, which it does for you, but you just need to know what that count means in terms of centimeters or inches. Neckline is pretty much according to pattern. Sleeves are obviously not, because they're longer, so I knitted to about 4 inches, 10 centimeters before I started increasing, and then I decreased. I decreased every 10th round until I got down to here, and then I made the wise decision to soak and dry the sleeves so that I knew the true length, and actually had knitted down to here before I started the moss stitch cuff. So I actually frogged back, which is why this one looks a bit funnier than the other one. This is a lot more neat because I knitted with noodle yarn here, and it blocked out a bit, but maybe not quite. So yeah, long sleeve version, and obvious modification. The other one is what I mentioned earlier, is that the gauge is considerably tighter, which meant I did a much larger size than I would have needed. It is also a bit less positive easy than the pattern says, because it's a limit to just how long I want to spend knitting it. And overall, the fit is really good. It would have helped with the styling if I had made it shorter. I find it really hard to estimate length at bottom up, especially with drop shoulder, because I don't really know where this bit is going to fall. It's probably ways to find out, I'm sure. But overall, I do really like it. There is a danger that nobody's ever going to see all the lace because it's so far down. I mean, now it just looks like I'm wearing a regular purple sweater, but there is elaborate lace work on here. Trust me. Oh, I just noticed this weird thing here. I had like a bit of a boo-boo on the knitting machine, so I had to like frog something and pick it up again. And again, one of those things I assumed would block out, but here it is, just to annoy me. It will block out over time, I'm sure. If I just like pulled it a bit, it'll be fine. Anyway, Tenya is done. It's done. It's done. It feels really good, and I'm feeling the need to have more of these really light fingering weight superwash sweaters. Yes, that did just come out of my mouth. It's just that they're really easy to wear as just casual sweaters, whereas a lot of my woolen sweaters feel like they are more layering pieces. They're more for winter, autumn, colder days. I mean, the summer's been pretty chilly, so I'm quite pleased with that. But they're more like layering pieces for me, whereas this is something I feel like I could confidently wear and leave the house with, and even if I get quite hot, it's not going to be so hot that I wish I had something under that I could take this off and wear. So there is a place for these for sure, and I'm finding myself wearing them quite a bit, and I need more of them. Which, interesting, actually don't have that many sweater quantities in this sort of yarn. Superwash, light fingering to fingering, there's very little. So that might be something I might be looking for in woolen. Maybe I shouldn't, because I've got a lot of other yarns. But yeah, don't get confused everyone. Just my true love is with the non-superwash for sure. That's what I enjoy working with. It's what I find to be the most predictable to work with as well. Like kind of what you make in your hands is what you will get in the final product, and I just really like it. I like the feel of it. This doesn't quite feel like wool, which is kind of both the disadvantage and the advantage. I have a lot of feelings about non-superwash and superwash from a purely subjective experience. I could talk more about that some other time maybe. I do have a lot of things to get through here. But if you want to hear me talk more about the subjective aspects of superwash versus non-superwash, then do let me know. There's a lot of stuff to do with the chemistry side of it and the really positive aspects of non-superwash. When it comes to just like the personal feel, like that's different from person to person. And for me personally, it differs more from occasion to occasion, depending on when do I want to wear one or the other. So yeah, cutting that one short, Tenya, Off the Needles. Let's move on to the next thing that is off the needles. So one project that I started on Sunday before last and finished, what was that? Thursday? Friday, something like that. It took me less than a week is what I'm trying to say, and it is dotted race, or as I've come to call it, my Swiss cheese shawl, because these eyelets, I mean, they're big. They are very big. They are meant to be double eyelets. You do 2 yarn overs and then you knit and purl into them. Kind of, you know, classic Stephen West style. For anyone who's done any of his patterns with eyelets, pretty much how it goes. So yeah, I've just come to call it Swiss cheese, but it is dotted race, not doodler, which I keep calling it because apparently any word that starts with a D or a D-O is the same in my brain. Dotted race, dotted race. It is very long, and it's like the 2 things that I hate about shawls. It's asymmetrical and crescent shaped. And you know what? I love this shawl. Absolutely love it. So I don't know how we can get the whole thing in the frame. I don't think we can. It is really, really long. So this is arguably more of a scarf than a shawl. And yeah, it could be a bit confusing that I love this thing, given it has the 2 features I dislike about shawls the most. But here's the thing, right? Wearing it sits really well. And then I just like tie a little knot here. Have it just ball around my neck like this. Obviously put the pigtails out. Oh yeah. And this yarn. Guys, hang on. I have very little information to give you about this yarn. I picked it up at Brooklyn General, so Brooklyn General store, whoop whoop whoop. This is really all it says. This is everything that's on the ball band. So yeah, I had 2 of these skeins. That was it. That's all I bought. I thought it would be enough for shawl, and then as I've come to learn, it's that DK weight shawls do require an awful lot of skeins. So I was like, well, it's not going to be very big then, unless I just go up a needle size a lot, because this is a woolly wool. It's a non-superwash. My guess is maybe even also woolen spun. It was a very uneven spun. There's a lot of thick and thin. There was a lot of bits of it that was completely unspun. So once that appeared and was approaching my needle, I would just give that strand a bit of a twist every time and then knit it. So I didn't get this like fluffy unspun bits in the shawl in the end, which probably wouldn't have mattered, but it was just a nice way to fix it. Just twisted it beforehand. So yeah, because it's this kind of woolly wool and not a super wash, not very slick, I knew that I could confidently go up to something like a 14 stitch gauge, which is kind of, yeah, usually what a 6mm needle leads to for me. So this shawl is made for, I think, a 375mm needle with fingering weight yarn, and I just, yeah, didn't do that. I went for a DK weight yarn. I went for probably more of a chunky weight gauge, and it was really, really quick. And as you can see, the stitches are pretty big. There's a lot of garter here, but I think it looks really nice that way. And is actually not even the smallest size. If you know anything about dotted race, is that it comes in 2 sizes. There's the big and the small, and I actually made 2 wedges less than the smallest size. So you know, it has these, it's got these wedges. That's like the bit that gets bigger and bigger coming out here. It just gets wider and wider as you go out, because the short rows. And I actually did 2 less, so this should be smaller than the smallest size, but of course, due to the needle size, it is pretty big, but it's also pretty shallow. It's not very deep, which is usually my hang up with crescent shapes. They're just one of the many, actually. But wearing this as a scarf actually works out really well. I find that if it's a superwash, I have to like really make it hang nicely around me because it's so drapey and it needs to like sit well, and then I get really annoyed that it's asymmetrical. It's like different on different sides. It's shallow, so it just hangs like a loop, and I don't like that. But when it's a non-super wash, I could just ball it around my neck and it looks really kind of nice and cozy and a bit chaotic, and I really like that. So yeah, this has already gotten quite a bit of wear. Saturday was, like I said, a very lovely day, but a very chilly day nonetheless. So I just had it balled around my neck, and it's lovely. And the cormo, you guys. Oh, cormo. I love cormo so much. You guys in America, especially you guys in New England, are so spoilt with like the readily availability of cormo relative to here. It's just like Corriedale is kind of making its presence known now in the UK. I just feel like there's still sheep that is more common over there. At least I've found that in the shops that I've been to and the people I know over there. So yes. Oh, so good. So good. so scrumptious. I'm like, everyone who sees me when I wear this are like, squish my shawl, just squish it, just give it a big squish. And I'm like, maybe I should take it off first. Awkward. So yeah, my dotted race, my cornrow baby, my oh, and yes, goodness me, a lot of I-cord, because you're working an I-cord as you knit it. Not too dissimilar from the night event shawl, which I haven't worked on this week either. Oh dear, I was so ahead. But then you bind off with an I-cord too. Oh, there's a lot of I-cord, and I know from experience that my I-cords can be quite tight. And if you know anything about gauge, which you might do if you watch this podcast regularly, is that the row gauge number is usually a higher number than a stitch gauge number, which means to get the same length in rows as you get in stitches to get the width, you need more rows. Or if you do an I-cord, you get 1 row per stitch, right? So you need to make sure those rows are way longer. They need to be as long as the stitch is wide, which is not usually how it is. Usually you have shorter rows than the width of a stitch. Hope that made sense. So in order to lengthen your rows, first of all, just loosen up. Just be loosey-goosey. Because a lot of the yarn will just disappear into the fold of the I-cord. So when you kind of change from one side to the other, you'll probably have a bit of a float coming in the back, and that will just kind of grow into your I-cord. So that will help loosen it up too. But also needle size. So while I did the shawl on 6mm, I for the very first time got to use my 8mm for the I-cord. So yeah, some massive needles have finally gotten a bit of exercise this week, past week I guess. So that's usually how I get through the I-cords to make sure that they aren't too tight. Just go up 2 needle sizes or something. So if I'm knitting a shawl on a, oh yeah, like this 6mm, I did an 8 for the I-cord. Maybe I could have even gone away with a 7, 7.5. I don't think 7.5 exists. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. You're kind of just gonna have to try it out, I guess. But yeah, general rule of thumb is go up to 1 to 2 needle sizes. But as you will see with later finished projects this week, it depends on your project. Sometimes you want the complete opposite effect, depending on where your I-cord goes. But for this case, for the case of a shawl, just go up in needle size and loosen up, and yeah, it will fit. And this is what I end up doing. I start off doing the I-cord and I do it up to here maybe, and then I just test it, I stretch it, see, does it feel too loose, does it feel too tight? There's a lot of times I have to go back and try a different needle size. Happens a lot, but I'd rather do that than have done the entire I-cord, whoa, to find out that it's too tight, which I know some people have, and you know, learned vicariously the hard way that that's not what you want to do. So yeah, I love this bit. I love this bit of the shawl. I have not given this like a pin stretch block thing. I don't really do that anymore. I just give all my knitwear just to soak, and I dry it flat, unless it's really light. I hang it. Also this thing I hung because it could just hang over the shower curtain rail. That works out. So yeah, it's so cool how it just grows from this point and just gets to this really cool thing. I don't know how he does it. How does Mr. Stephen West do these things? It's so simple and brilliant, and you just keep going. This is such a fun knit. I can really recommend it. I can definitely recommend my so-called modifications. Just have a very basic shawl. You tie a knot. Just to wear like this. It's so nice. And just get a wool that you really like. If you can find a really soft non-superwash that you really want to have around your neck. Like, I can imagine this would be really lovely with shelter, like an undyed shelter. They can be really soft. Like nightshades. Ooh, Quince & Co maybe. All the options. But you know what? We have a lot of projects to get through. I think I have said everything I wanted to say about this. Just, yeah, really fun to experiment with shawls, and also just knit a pattern that is constantly just fun. So yeah, the color is a little bit dull. Undyed yarn can be a bit boring on me because I wear so much black. So I'm gonna have to make sure to like spice up the colors generally. You know, wear something like this sweater, which is quite lovely, radiant purple, because Woolmiser, I mean, yeah, so that goes really well together. And yeah, I have a new shawl. However, we are not done with the whip-a-rama here yet. No, because I took another work in progress that I've had going for about just over a month. I think I started this towards the end of April, because I just finished a pair of socks and I thought that's when I get to start another pair of socks, and I powered through the first sock really quickly, and as often happens, the second sock just lingers, and I think that's fine. I usually allow myself to do that. It's just not that much fun to work the same sock in such close temporal proximity, so I like to space it out, and I really felt like picking up the sock the other day. I powered through the leg in a live stream that I did with Amy when we talked about yarn substitution, and we're gonna do more live streams, not to worry, and they happen on the Instagram when we decide. There's no schedule. And then I just had the heel, and I just got through the heel in a moment of procrastination, and then I figured I can just do the foot during my stay in Faversham, so I did, and we have the socks. This is a pair of, goodness me, I'm sitting in a really awkward way. This is a pair of Regia socks. This is one of the colorways designed by Norwegian-Swedish duo Anna and Carlos, and it's probably one of my favorite of theirs. It's not like I love all their colorways, because they are quite out there, and deliberately so. They don't ever want to be boring nice, they want to be interesting. But I think this one is more of a sort of boring nice, which I really like. That's my thing. Yeah, it's very festive, so I am not doing the whole Christmas sock thing that Amy's doing, but if I were, this would probably go into that part. It probably will, to be honest. So yeah, what do I have to say? I talked a lot about this last time when I just done the first sock. It's that there is a lot of green to get through to do the cuff, but you will get a proper long cuff, which is nice. If you want to do it shorter, you're gonna have to make sure you cut off the same amount for both, because they are meant to be the same length, and you're not supposed to cut your yarn to stop the second. This will just automatically transition from cuff to toe. That's right. So I just used the whole thing to make sure that they are identical. And when I found that I was approaching the green, I started knitting the heel flap flat. I used my favorite sort of very short slip stitch heel flap that I have in many of my colorwork sock patterns. You can get from there. And then I pick up about 10 stitches from the side after I done half a German shorter heel from this heel flap. That is just half the stitch count of the sock. And that's the usual kind of divided stitch count by 3, do 2/3 into short rows and leave the middle bit just to stockinette. I'm explaining this really poorly, but if you know how to do heels, this probably makes a little bit sense, if anything. Yeah, picked up along the heel flap and decreased as a gusset, as you do, until you're back to the same stitch count as for the leg. Whoa, yay! And then I just kept knitting, and you will find that you get to the green of the toe very quickly. There's a lot of green left for the toe, because it's supposed to be a yarn that you could make into many sizes, and I am about slightly larger than average, if arguably average women's feet size. Like I'm about 39 to 40 European. I think that's like a 6.5 UK, something like that. I mean, it all varies. So yeah, obviously, so that people who have even smaller feet will get to the toe as well, there is a lot of green for me to get through until I actually get to the toe. But it doesn't look weird, I don't think. This is pretty cute. Actually makes the feet look a bit smaller, for whatever that's worth. I don't think that matters either way. But yeah, so that's kind of where I was getting to with this, is you don't want to do this toe up, because there's a lot of green saved for the toe. There's a lot of green leftovers, and so if you decide to do it maybe the other way around, you can't really just center pull and do that, because you will get very long toes, probably down to here, and then you'll have all this stuff that you have to knit before you get to the heel, but then you have to put that into the heel because you're at the heel. You don't want to do that, trust me. You want to follow the pattern. You want to do a center pull. That's just what the skein is meant for, and knit it this way. You don't want to do center pull and then knit the toe, because still this is probably a bit too much for your toe. Maybe someone else's is different, I don't know. It's a gamble, that's what I'm trying to say. So don't knit from the outside of the skein, toe up. Don't knit from the center from the skein, toe up. Just knit from the center, cuff down. That's pretty much all it's made to do. it will be different from the other self-patterning radio socks, because they won't have the sections with plain colors, solid colors. So on those perfect socks you can go either way. Like I've done a pair of self-striping perfect socks, and that was fine. You can do that toe up if you like. I didn't, but you could. But when they have these sections, that's for heels, toes and cuffs, you just want to follow the instructions. I've thought about many ways of doing it, and it's just, this is the optimal way. So if anyone was wondering that, because I certainly was before I tried some, that's just how it's going to be with these. So yeah, I haven't really blocked these. I have a pair of Bryson/Bryspun sock blockers, but honestly, unless my socks got any particular texture or color work or anything, lace, you know, I can't really be bothered. Doesn't really matter. Yes, they look nice in the sock drawer, but who am I kidding? I don't have a sock drawer. My socks are just hanging around here. Let me show you. See, they're just hanging around. They're just hanging around the place, just being temptations for the bugs. But they're, I actually feel safer having my knitwear just hanging around, because closed mouths, they only like dark and grubby corners and cracks and things hidden away from the light and from view, and things that don't get, you know, tossed around a lot. So if I can see it, I feel like it's safer, and it pretty much is. So that's like why I never worry about my cones or anything for the bugs, because my cones are out in daylight, they get sunlight. I move them around a lot, so they're safer than if I had put them in a cupboard, you know. So anyway, Christmas socks. These are my West Yorkshire Spinner Christmas socks. This is my Regia that I've decided the Christmas socks. So I'm not doing the Christmas sock challenge that Amy's doing, but you know, if I were, I would have had 3 pairs. Just got interrupted by the postwoman, but yeah, sadly nothing exciting for the podcast that I can show in acquisitions, unless you think tights are exciting in case. I mean, yeah, sure. And also this Hey Mama Wolf skein that my friend Mars of Hey Brownberry has shipped to my address, because I will be bringing it to her in Dublin. So it's coming up, Dublin, Woolen, woo! I keep saying Dublin, it's called Woolen, the festival. It's outside of Dublin. I don't even know if I'm gonna get to go to Dublin, the city. I hope so. I've never been. That would be nice. Anyway, I've got so many projects to talk about that, yeah, we're gonna have to cut that sock section short. Just a pair of vanilla socks. And when it's off the needles, that means I get to cast on another pair. I'm not sure. It will be something self-striping, self-patterning. I'm not allowed to by myself to knit anything with like significant like texture and lace, because I still haven't finished the Magnolia socks by Helen Stewart. How hard is it, Ellie? How hard is it? Anyway, 2 at a time socks. This is just why I don't do them. Whoa, still got another 3 finished objects to talk about. Whoa, I can't count. We got another 2 projects. Oh my god. I actually happen to have another garment off the needles. Yes, a garment. This is one that you haven't seen in a very, very long time, and yes, it's been a very chilly summer so far, and yes, I'm very pleased with that. I am not naive, and I have learnt the hard, cruel way just how hot summers in London can be and how unbearable they are. Yes, I'm gonna keep moaning about this the whole summer, even though it's cold and nice and lovely, and I'm quite happy. It will happen. And last year I was feeling a little bit like sort of an identity crisis looming, in that I couldn't wear my knitwear, and I didn't feel like myself. So I have suddenly become one of those people who like to knit summer wear out of like cottons and linens and stuff. What? So don't know if you know about Coast from Holst, but it's a cotton lamb's wool blend, and I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, you wouldn't wear wool in the summer, oh, it's crazy. Wool breathes really well if you're wearing a non-superwash light fine wool knitted quite loosely. That's gonna breathe beautifully, and being a cotton blend as well, it's not gonna be overly hot, overheating, whatever. So I think that's gonna be a really good yarn for a summer garment. So that's gonna be, I mean, it's not something I've tried yet, but it's finished, so I can just need to wait for the temperature to rise. But don't rush it, weather, it's fine, don't rush it. So without further ado, it is the Tarmac tank. I have never ever knitted anything even remotely similar to this. This is so out of my comfort zone, out of my normal. It's just, Can you tell I'm pleased? I'm really pleased. Look at that. Look at that. I knitted this. I will say, despite actually being quite a loose gauge, I found this pretty slow. Even though it's stripy, it was pretty slow. But it's done. I actually powered through the flat bits a lot quicker because I was just, let's just get that out of the way. Let's just get the purling out of the way. Just don't want to do it. And then when I was in around my comfort zone, I took a while, but it was a really good project to bring with me because yeah, I was hanging out with a lot of friends in the heat and I was just, you know, in my complaining. Didn't really want to have a hot project in it on as well, so this was really good to have. It's a really nice portable project. Will recommend, absolutely. So Tarmac tank. This is a design by Anna Maltz, also known as Sweater Spotter, and she knitted this in, I never talk about the original yarn. Why don't I never do that when I talk about pattern? I never say that the yarn I chose is a substitution, because they nearly always are. So the yarn was recommended was Yoth yarn. I think it's called Friend or Friendship or something. I don't remember. But I used Coast by Holst because it's cheaper and I had it. And it was really dark when I cast this on. It was really hot day, so I wanted the windows open, but didn't want the bugs coming in, so I switched off the light and I just had the fan going. I couldn't see anything, and I thought I'd cast on 2 shades of grey, but yeah, no, it's a navy blue and grey, so that was nice to see when it was daylight the next day. And I really like it. I love how the subtle stripes just make them blend together, because it's just those single row stripes, so it doesn't get as defined as a 2-row or 3-row stripe. I wish I'd known about helical knitting at the time, because there's a clear jog here where I changed the colours. Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. Doesn't matter. What else do I have to say? The I-cord. Oh, we could spend a lot of time talking about the I-cord. The I-cord I worried would roll up because it's stockinette, right? Or stockinette rolls up. I-cords don't really stop that too much. A little bit. But I thought if I want the I-cord to stop the stockinette from rolling up, it needs to be tighter. So as opposed to my usual approach, which would be to use larger needles, I decided to use the same needle size as the garment, because then the row gauge that I get here will be the width of the I-cord. Now obviously that little float that you get behind your I-cord will then become part of the I-cord as you kind of give it a stretch and tug. So it does get a little bit looser, which is probably desirable. But in addition to doing all of this, I basically decrease at a rate of knit one I-cord row together with a stitch, knit the next I-cord row together with the next stitch, knit the next I-cord row together with the 2 next stitches. Right, so I don't know if you can tell. See here, that probably makes no sense. Yeah, here's 1, 2, and then 2 together. 1, 2, and then 2 together. So if that made sense. And that worked out really well. I really liked it for the bottom hem. It's just gathered it. It doesn't look tight. It is. If this was a tight garment, I would be annoyed because there's more stretch in the actual garment than the hem. But here it's already really loose, so having that firmness for the hem really helped. It contains it, it prevents it from rolling up. It's still really flowy, so happy I did that. I got a lot of help from Nessa of Kills to Craft, so that helped a lot too. She'd already made it, and I really like the I-cord and how it added structure so much that I did it in the same way for the neckline and the armholes, because they looked pretty open to begin with. I was like, this needs to swoop up a bit, so I did that for the neckline, and yeah, it did kind of come together a bit. It did really like land between my breasts to begin with, right? That's a little bit too revealing. Like, yeah, sure, I'll be wearing a bra underneath or something, but don't need to show off the entire thing. Just, there's a reason I'm wearing a top over. He needs to do the thing that tops do. You know, that's for me to decide for my, of course, if you feel like other things, then that's fine too. Yeah, so it did gather it up a bit, and I did the same for the armholes, and it did actually do it as well. Believe it or not, it used to be even deeper. It did look really awkward at first because it seemed like there was a lot more fabric here than the I-cord would allow, but actually giving it a block, it did get wider rather than longer, so it worked out. It had many benefits to it. It just gave all this structure and meant that the garment gets to be, yeah, enjoying its widthwise space rather than just stretching out. But yeah, the armholes are still really deep, so if I'm gonna try this on, I'm gonna just put it over Tenya and you can sort of see how it's it doesn't cover a whole lot, so this is probably not for you if you feel like you definitely don't want anything of your bra showing, or if you don't wear bras, anything of your breast, then maybe you might want to consider some modifications, because this is how it wears, right? So the back is pretty high up. I feel like that could have been lowered, but anyway. There's a lot you can see here. All of this is my bra goes along here as well. Oh, my bra would show all the way to almost the bottom. Like there's a lot of that popping out here, which I don't really mind. I wear some garments that do this similarly, and it's quite trendy right now. Young trendy people have told me. I wouldn't know. So yeah, it does the same the other side in case you were curious. So yeah, if I wasn't wearing a bra, like this much of my breasts would be showing on each side. So it's, if you don't like that and you want to make this, what I would suggest is take out some length. So do the front straps shorter, pull it up here, and then obviously correspondingly do the back shorter. Then you could gather it up and it will be like this. And yeah, so there's a considerable portion here you might want to take out. And I'm actually considering, in time, when I'm a free spirit again, not bogged down with all the demands of life, I might want to make another one. And in those instances, I probably would do exactly that. And I'm also thinking this is actually doable on the machine, which I'm like, I don't think I would do the bits in the round on the machine. I'd probably do that by hand, even though it takes a long time. It's just the flat bits that I would consider doing on the machine. To be honest, it's the loosest gauge that the machine can do. So yeah, just a thought for the future. But yeah, it's, yeah, like I said, there's a lot from the underarm here that's just being revealed, and like, yeah, I don't want to sit here and be like super opinionated about what you can and cannot reveal. I am like, that is entirely up to you. If you want to be super covered up and that is your thing, awesome. If you want to just flaunt all the things that you're legally allowed to, fabulous. I am sorry, the law is like super unfair to women relative to men on this thing. That's just, yeah, I'm just team let people do what they want, and what I want is to just not be overheating in the summer. That's kind of where I'm at. And I would prefer if this was more aligned with my bra, just because that makes sense. So if I were to make another one, I'd probably try to make this a little bit shorter and just like gather up this bit here so that it follows this line here. Because I still think it's gonna let in a lot of air, because now it does hang really low. It does run the risk of really just, yeah, just personal taste. And what I did notice as well is that in the magazine there's a much smaller model than me, and she's clearly wearing a much smaller size than mine. And it does seem like the smaller sizes have also less length to them, which is often how grading works, because you can't really grade length and width separately unless you want to make a ridiculous number of sizes. Like say you have 6 sizes, and you're gonna have to make 6 by 6 sizes then, or find out ways to, you know, give people the instructions for length and width independently, which I would like to see more of, to be honest. But that's another point entirely. And I understand Pom Pom have, you know, size restrictions, like just print space restrictions in the magazines. Yeah, so for people who would like to put in this potential modification of not having such a deep armhole situation, that is something I can recommend, to just look at the length instructions for the smaller sizes if you are to make the larger size. And if you are not, then you're probably already good. That size will probably be fine. So this is why I really like when the pattern writes the model is this size and is wearing this size. I'm trying to be better at that myself, but it's like feels a little bit revealing sometimes to be like, oh yeah, the model is a 40 something inch bust and is wearing, like, that's just like kind of personal. Like, I'm not a real model. It's like my measurements are mine. But it's helpful. It's really helpful. I need to do that more. I have started to write what sample the garment is. That I think is so helpful. So yeah, Tarmac tank top, Tarmac tank by Animals is off the needles. It is lovely. Like I said, I did very few modifications. It was just the way that the eye-cord was made that I modified, and I wish I had modified the armhole depth, but it's not a disaster by no means. I still think I could wear this in the summer heat and it would just be like a loose top over my bra, which is not a far cry from what I normally wear. And honestly, I'm curious. Let's just try this. Pro tip, by the way, wearing Holst, be careful. It's a very fine yarn. You don't want to stretch it out and ruin it. So I'm just gonna see what it's like the other way around, just because I'm curious. And I had to do it live, of course. Huh, that's interesting. You know, I don't hate it. Look how much it's like letting in the back. And it's sitting in a really weird way though. It has to sit higher in the front. Huh, look at that. That works too. I mean, still, I don't know. Maybe it looks like I'm wearing it backwards, forwards, because I am. Just worth experimenting with. I don't know. It feels like you could do either, but I'm gonna take it off now because wearing layers of knitwear is actually, it's quite nice. It's just a bit ridiculous. So there we have it. It's really light. I would definitely love to have more things like this in my wardrobe, just to throw over stuff even. I was actually hoping this could be a top that I could just throw over anything I'm wearing and just have it hanging there. But it is a bit awkward with the really deep armholes. It does look like something that just works best for a hot summer day. So that's probably what it's going to be. It's really nice and soft. I love this cotton lamb's wool. It is non-superwash. And yeah, even though it's a 50-50 split between the two roughly, it spit splices. You can't really spit splice cotton, but because of the lamb's wool portion, you can. That's amazing. So that really helped me, although there were like 2 ends in total, because yes, I only used 2 cakes of each color. Actually, I think that's a lie. I think I just used just over 1 from each. Actually, I don't think I used a lot on the second ones of either. Let's just weigh this. Hang on. I have this like kitchen scale just on my shelf, as you do. Knitters will relate to this. It weighs 101 grams. So I think what I did is that I used up the whole of the light grey, and then I joined in the navy when I started doing the I-cord, because it seems to just weigh a bit over 2 cakes of yarn. Holst yarns come in cakes, or cones if you use cones. I used cakes this time around. So just to wrap that up, I mean, it's not often that you get a knitted garment that is 100 grams, 101 grams, I think it came up. That's just really awesome. So I could definitely see myself making similar things. I do like sleeves though, but that doesn't work for the heat. I don't know, I'm thinking out loud. So a lot of summer tops I'm starting to think about again now. I really want to do one of Lena Tusty's linen tops, just to say that I've tried linen, if anything. I do have some now. Still want to do the watercolor. I'm thinking about that beautiful lace top by Sally Norland that just came out in Pom Pom. That would be amazing. Yeah. So thoughts I'm having. But I should probably finish more projects, because it feels good. It feels good to have a lot of things off the needles, even though it's yeah, quite negligible. That's a word. Whoa, in proportion to what I have going still. So if you're keeping up with the whip count, there is 1 whip left to talk about, and it's ridiculous that I haven't finished this sooner. And yeah, it's completely pointless that I'm sorting out my hair, because we're gonna have that hair happening here. I finished this chunky weight hat that I started before Christmas. That should have been done the same evening I cast on, to be honest, but whatever. I thought it was a cabled hat, but it's actually lace. So This is the Luotu hat, I think, from, it's on the front cover of Lane 4, and the designer has the Finnish name, so you're gonna have to look that up because I'm not pronouncing that. It's really nice. I love the color. It goes perfectly well with my Ducot by Kate Davies. It's still a little bit damp from blocking yesterday. I say blocking, I just started to soak and dry all my knitting now. I don't care anymore. I don't have anything nice to block my hats on anyway, so unless, again, it's like color work, I'm like, it will probably just sort itself out. So as you can see, it's got a lot of violets because it's actually laced. There's no cabling, it just looks like it. Pretty cool. Fits me really, really well, and I am so pleased. I can't recall if I went up in and loosen up the gauge in terms of needle size choice, but I probably did, to be honest. What I know I did is adding an extra repeat. So of these like bubbles, there's supposed to work, I think it was 2 repeats before you do the last bit of the crown, but I actually have one more, which is actually getting hidden by the fold, which is annoying. I could have just done a longer rib, but because yeah, I have a massive head. I don't like to feel like hats fit me just right. I would like to make them feel like they're quite big, and this, oh, this is such a good fit. I am keeping this one. This is my hat now, so I'm glad I did that, even though that did make it a lot longer to finish, because it's, yeah, it's quite long. And all of this is covered. It's so annoying. I took a long time making this, and it could have just been more rib. Oh wow. Oh. But it's quite nice if some of it's poking out and it doesn't look like there's just a little rib, you know. It's just the little extra. The pattern does picture a pom-pom, so I thought I'll make one. I'll use my clover pom-pom maker that I have bought, and actually I do have 2 sets, and a small one I was given by Pom-Pom at this event that they had where they gave everyone one. But I had to get bigger ones to make regular size pom-poms. Making pom-poms out of quarry. This is Brooklyn Tweed quarry. It's no easy feat, actually, because I tried to, like, you know, wind the yarn around. That was easy, and then I tried to tighten the final yarn around, and I thought, let's not pull quarry. Yeah, it's a very like it's chunky, but it's fragile. So I pulled it quite gently, and when I took it off the pom-pom maker, it hadn't done anything. It was just like I was just holding all these little strands of yarn in my hands. I'm like, am I just gonna bend this? Is this gonna work out? What do I do? What do I do? Ah. And then I'd found that I had this brown Ravverk yarn standing on my shelf that I could easily wind up yarn while still holding this bundle of just loose strands and tie it around it quite snugly because it's a lot stronger. And I did, and then I soaked everything, the pom-pom, the hat, everything, and then once it dried I trimmed off the pom-pom this morning, so it looks a lot neater. And I'm very careful with it because I still didn't want to pull too tight. I don't want to break the yarn. I only had one chance to save this thing. It was the last bit of the skein because I only used one skein of quarry, and I think it's fine. I don't want to play around it too much. I don't think it's fragile exactly, but you know, you want to be careful. Well, that's the case with all pom-poms, because it's just a collection of strands that are quite loose and just tied together. So, bye. I got one. I made one. Pretty cool. It's all still a little bit damp, but yeah, it's beautiful. I love the Woolen Spun Target Brooklyn Tweed yarns. Anything Loft, Shelter, Quarry, I love them. Honestly, I just kind of, yeah, crazy obsessed with them. I haven't ever worked with Shelter, so that will be the next on my list. And I do have a couple of full loyalty cards from Loop, so that may happen. What else do I really have to say? I mean, Quarry, it doesn't have the best reputation. I think when both Quarry, actually all of them, Quarry, Loft and Shelter were launched, they were really good, and then word got around that they broke super easily. You could literally piece them apart with your hands. It got a pretty dodgy reputation pretty quickly, and what I have found out just through talking to people who knit with a yarn is that this is a thing of the past. It seems like a handful of years ago Brooklyn Tweed actually sorted this, and you know, most yarn shops will have rolled over now, and the stronger versions will be in shops. Like, I knit really tight, I hold my yarn really tight. That's mostly how I knit tight, because it's very tightly, like the strand over my finger is held quite tight, and I don't have problems with it breaking. I've made 2 shawls in loft now. It's fine. It breaks on me very, very rarely, and usually it's because I do something stupid like sitting on the yarn. But I did find that towards the crown, the yarn started breaking on me a lot more, and it was because I was holding it quite tight. I think that's a special case for Quarry, because loft and shelter, while not being very highly spun, they were very well twisted around each other, although the plies themselves are quite untwisted. Hope that made sense. It's a bit like Let Low Be and things like that. So it is, despite being thicker, actually a bit more fragile, so just be a little bit careful with it. But honestly, all the way up to here, had no problems with it. And honestly, if you do have problems with it, you can split splice. I chose not to because I didn't want to have to go back to get a long enough strand that I could like rub and stuff, and sometimes the problem was actually the row below. So that is a risk. If you knit through one of the 2 plies of Quarry, that could easily break, and then the second one is a lot more fragile on its own. So that did happen. But this is just a hat, so it's gonna hold up pretty well anyway. I'm not too worried. So, but it's just something to be aware of. I don't want you to worry. I'm just saying, just go gentle, but you don't have to be like overly gentle. I'm just saying I hold my yarn super tight. So if you're like me, then that's when you want to be gentle. But if not, it's probably fine. I really like this yarn. I'm gonna wear it again because I like it that much. Look how well it goes with Tenya. Look at that. Whoa, yay, huh? And you know what else it's gonna go well with? Once it's finished, it's my only work in progress to show you this week. It's the Calla shawl. I say that just because I find that these like little cable round bits here, it's just got similar aesthetic to that. I don't know. Whoa. Goodness me. And I'm supposed to show this in public. Oh, yeah, so this is my only work in progress, because once I'd finished the 5th project yesterday on Sunday, I just wanted to enjoy a project that I know will take longer to finish. So I knitted from about here to down here, and I have just finished the 2nd skein, which is why I'm not quite done with the row, because it's just this bit left and there's a bit of the row left here. So yeah, 2 skeins left. I don't know how much of the 4th skein is being used. So I might be 2/3 on the way, I might be halfway. I'm not entirely sure, but oh, I love this. Again, substituting yarn. I did not substitute for the hat. This actually recommended Quarry. But here I'm substituting the new West wool, which is amazing, with John Abin Viola yarn, which is kind of like their Knit by Numbers DK, but I believe this colorway is developed by Emily Foden of Viola Yarns. So, and I've had this in stash for a long time. I wanted to do a cardigan, but I think I would prefer a bit looser size, larger size than maybe what I planned when I bought it. Longer sleeves, and it just wouldn't be enough. So 4 skeins of DK, it's really good for shawl, it's what I recommended. And it's gonna be so nice because it's Falkland Merino, which pills so much, but not in a shawl, because it's not going to be worn that much like a sleeve would say. So it would be nice. I feel like I've got so much burgundy and purple now, they actually kind of clash. Like, is this match or is it just a little bit off? I feel like it's a bit off. So this may go more with my black clothes. It's gonna be so nice. And I love this color. Of all the like burgundy shades, this is kind of my favorite. Similar to the Polworth sweater that I did with the Stone Fine Wool by the Little Grey Sheep. So yeah, there we have it. Calla shawl, just powering through it. It's crazy how good this pattern is. I just love it. This is clearly just made by someone who's super competent. Like I said, I wish the cable symbols in the chart would be clearer. It should be clearer if it's like a 2x3 or a 3x2 in the terms of overlap, but rule of thumb, it's always the 2 on the front. So if it's going this way, the 2 is always on the front. So yeah, for all the 5-stitch cables, that's usually the case. I hope that helps you. That was less complicated than last time I talked about this, I think. So, whoa, finished talking about all the knitting. I say that, finished talking about all the hand knitting. I have a little bit to say about machine knitting. and then I'm going to talk about some acquisitions, and then we will be done. Whoa, yay. I have recently bought a ribber. I'm now going to try to be good and leave the names of my knitting machine and ribber down in the description. It's like a knitting machine, a brother knitting machine from the 80s called KH836, and the ribber is a KR830. So that's what I have. The ribber is okay. I quite like working with it. It seems less noisy working the ribber along with the machine than the machine on its own, which is interesting. It seems more quiet, more fluent. But there is a lever stuck. I think it's called partial hold lever on the ribber, kind of on the bottom left corner. It is just stuck. It doesn't yield. It doesn't seem like it's meant to move. And it's annoying because it has to move in order for me to knit circular. If I'm going to make sock tubes, sweater tubes, it needs to yield. It doesn't. And it's kind of... I hope it will in time, because otherwise it's kind of a pointless thing, this ribber. Unless obviously you just want to do rib, which is what I have done. So I got my Holst cone out and I did a pretty fine rib. You can just see that this just glows machine it. It's so even and fine. Like nobody in the right mind would do rib this fine by hand. Maybe some, I suppose. But yeah, really fine 1x1 rib here. It's quite elastic. I also managed to do a tubular cast on, sorry. But as with the hand knitted tubular, I don't like it. It's like super wavy. If you can see that. So I'm actually not a huge fan. It also messed up this one. This is super loose. I should not have done it this loose. It's overall looser gauge, which is why I thought the cast on needed to be looser, but I've changed my mind. I don't think I ever need to change the tension of the cast on. That needs to remain on 0. And then I choose the gauge I want. So this is quite nice. It's quite similar to what I would do if I was hand knitting a 1x1 rib in Holst in a sort of 26-24 stitch gauge. If that was the stockinette gauge, I don't know what the rib gauge is. So I quite like this. Both of these have been washed. So this is kind of like Holst post-washing, although a machine wash would probably make them bloom even more. So I tried it out with Fenal. I have this colour that I don't see myself using that much. It's a leftover from Miss Rachel, the cardigan I made by Kate Davies, and still I find the tubular does this, and I don't know, maybe I will look for another another cast on, sorry. It's really cool that the ribber can do a tubular cast on really efficiently even. But it just looks a bit weird, but maybe it doesn't when I wear it. Then it will be quite even, and like just trying it on my boob here, you know, as you do. It's quite loose up here because it's just live stitches, because I can't be bothered to bind off a swatch, honestly. It's a bit effortful on the machine, because like you basically have to just sew and bind off or similar things. But yeah. So this is quite similar to what I would do by hand. This is yeah. So I'm kind of hoping to substitute some of my hand knitting rib because I just don't enjoy it that much. Yeah. So that's kind of been my knitting machine week. I am just working up the ribber. I'm familiarizing myself with it. It's really fun, but it's a steep learning curve, as is the machine as well. I am just like a scavenger collecting parts on eBay, parts that's older than I am. So that's interesting. I think I have everything I need now. I needed these diagonal clamps to make the machine sit on an angle. I had to get this like weird twisty handle. I had to get extra needles because some of mine are a bit broken. I had to get this like sinker plate for the ribber to be attached to the machine. Like I had to get the punch card and the card puncher and all that stuff. I just had to buy a lot of parts lately, and I think I got enough parts now. I think I have everything I need. I just need to make that lever unstuck. So that is the knitting machine update for this week. Once I get the hang of it, I'm gonna make so many awesome things. Just you wait till the PhD is done. Oh boy. So the last bits that we have left for this episode is my acquisitions. And now I feel like I was pretty good in Faversham, while being in the yarn shop the whole day. Didn't actually buy that much. So I'm kind of saving myself a woolen, I think, which is risky in its own right because I haven't really budgeted for that either. But now I have been given this pile of yarn and I wanted to haul it. So, as you will know, one of my favorite people in the world, Amy Florence, is a yarn dyer. And what you may not know about Amy is that she is a perfectionist. As far as her business goes, I would classify her as a perfectionist. So things aren't exactly as she had in mind. It doesn't really go, and she's ready to like put that yarn in her cat's bed, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Your cat's had enough yarn. Think about your friend. So she had dyed this pile of yarn in Merino DK, and it didn't came out exactly as her colorway Deep Feelings. It came out a bit more purple. I mean, I quite like that. Surprise. So I said, yeah, I will take it. Whatever you charge for, I will take it, whatever. And like now we've just found like a pattern yarn trading deal of sorts. And so what I got is, and this is the first time I'm taking it out of the bag because it's a lot and it seems quite pointless to take it all out, but I will do it because I am now sat here with 9 skeins of just beautiful merino in this gorgeous, slightly purple tinted, but yet I would argue blue yarn. It's coming up more blue on camera, I think. It's got a purple kind of tint to it in person. Holy hell. So we have 9 skeins here, and 9 skeins is way beyond anything I would ever buy for sweater quantity for myself. I think I could get away with 6, give or take, a skein depending on the sweater. Like, what kind of sweater could I make with 9? Like, do I do like another soda? Like, yeah, obviously in a DK. I can know Holy Locatelli's got this really nice cable coat as well. Should finish soda first though. Yeah, should do that. So I don't really know what to make. It's a lot. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. I'm like, I love this color. Yeah, sure, it's a little bit more purple than intended. Yeah. So I'm just like browsing Ravelry for DK weight sweaters or jackets or coats or whatever that are really, really big. And I kind of wish that Holy Locatelli would have had a DK weight boxy. Like something between the fingering weight and the worsted, like an 18 stitch gauge or so. Maybe that will come out. I've heard rumors. I have a lot of merino in DK on now, which I am just super grateful for, because honestly, because DK weight yarn, you need more to make something similarly to fingering weight because it's less meters. So I usually tend not to buy that weight for myself unless it's an affordable yarn. So to get this bundle of hand-dyed DK weight yarn in what's beyond a sweater quantity makes me very excited. So thank you so much, Amy. I feel like I am so spoiled. So don't even know where to put this stuff. Just, yeah, browsing Ravelry a lot, seeing what I could make. I may also have placed a cheeky little yarn order also in DK weight yarn from Old Maiden Aunt. She decided to discontinue her Blueface Leicester yarn, and for anyone who knows me would know that I think that that's, you know, a disaster, because I love Blueface Leicester, but that's her choice, and I decided I needed a lot of it, so I'm expecting a lot of it, probably the same amount as this, in my favorite colorway of hers, which is Annie's Seed. So that's exciting. So I've been pretty good yarn shopping wise this year, and I don't usually do online orders, so I'm allowing myself this one. It's a treat. It was on sale. I'm really good with sales. This was a gift. So yeah, something I'm just thinking a lot about lately is all this stuff of how much we podcasters do this sort of acquisitions thing. Just have a lot of thoughts and opinions about it. I think for each individual case and each individual person who's a podcaster is absolutely fine. But I do worry about what we do in the bigger picture. If all of us do this all the time, we're all kind of creating this idea that we're all just spending recklessly on yarn and we all have so much and way more than we need. Relatable. It's not creating a good vibe, especially for those who feel like that's just not something they can ever afford. And I think a lot about that, and I'm like, I don't think my personal yarn choices is anyone's business but my own, but I still recognize the responsibility of being part of creating this image and expectation and I kind of want to work against that as well. And I talk a lot about like how I'm good at finding sales. I prefer affordable yarns, to be honest. Like I love things like yarn from Uppingham Yarns, Holst, Rauma, Hillesfog. I'm just slapping my face now, it's ridiculous. Nearly 30 years and I'm still forgetting that this thing is gonna be in this way. Yeah, just never get used to proper reception. But yeah, jokes aside, I have a lot of feelings about, yeah, the responsibility that we have on a podcast to not just about the buying and the purchasing. Can you tell that this was not a prepared rant? But not just that, but the general sense that in order to be part of the community, you need to have this bag, this yarn, knit these patterns from these designers. There's like, I quite like to work against that. I don't think none of these things are true, but I understand that we would feel this way and the feelings are as real as the expectations, although I don't think anyone's actually expecting anyone to do this that I'm aware of. There might be people out there who are like, I can't believe you haven't knitted that yet. Like, maybe, surely, whatever. But I would just like to see a more diverse selection of what we knit, if that makes sense. I would like to see different patterns. Like I love the knit along that Jacqueline of Brooklyn Knitfolk had for knitting patterns that have hardly been knitted. I love when people use yarns that are really old stash, yarns that they've inherited that isn't even made anymore. Definitely, you know, using affordable but quality brands. I honestly, you could use a plastic bag for your project. Like, there is so much that's just perfectly fine, and that we've created these expectations that I'm not sure that important, and that really in the end is just, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I don't want anyone to like ever feel like they can't be part of anything because they don't have and do the right things. Been there, you know. I used to stay away from all my local yarn shows because I thought, oh, I can't go there because I can't afford their yarns. But really, now that I am part of these communities, I think I know that they will welcome anyone. There's lots of people who come in there with their first ever projects in chunky acrylic yarn and pony needles, none of which the yarn shop sells, and they're welcomed and it's fine. And yeah, so having realized this as I kind of, you know, grown older into the knitting community, it's a lot of expectations that we feel, but they are maybe not that real out there. And I would like to maybe show that more. I just don't know how. I'm just thinking without an answer right now. Yeah, would love to hear your opinions on this. If you're one of those people who's like just really confident with what you do and doesn't really care, that's really cool, because you may be sitting here with the secret to how to achieve this for everyone. So we'd love to hear from you about all these things. And yeah, I've gotta start writing again now. It's business as usual here, but thank you so much for watching this week as well. I hope to see many of you guys in woolen, and if not, I will see you here next time. Bye. Focus! Focus! Come on! This is ridiculous. Hello, my face is right here. What? This could take a while. Is it the books? Hey, hey.